Hi YouTube. Hi witches. I hope you're doing well. Today is actually, well, as I'm filming this, it's not the day before Giorno dei Morti, Festa dei Morti. It's actually the Tuesday, October 29th. But the day you're seeing this is the day before Giorno dei Morti. So I'm actually going to talk about what it is, how you can celebrate it, and bring your ancestors in for the next year, and also about what I'm doing to celebrate kind of some of the things that I'm bringing in. Giorno dei Morti or Festa dei Morti is the Italian, it means like All Souls Day or Day of the Dead. Festival of the Dead, Festa dei Morti. It is syncretized now with All Souls Day, the Catholic version, but a lot of the traditions that I've researched and looked into have definitely shown a lot of like, it seems like they've been going on a little older, but it's still celebrated in Italy from the research I've done. So if you're Italian and you want to share something about All Souls Day or something you do, drop it in the comments. But yeah, so I think a lot of people associate and know about Day of the Dead, or the Mexican Day of the Dead, and that celebration and how important it is for ancestral remembrance. But what I tend to see a lot around this type of holiday is, oh, well, I am not from that culture, so I can't celebrate Day of the Dead. True, you can't, but you can still remember your ancestors and call them in on All Souls Day. And really kind of integrate them for the next year. You don't have to be from a specific culture or a specific tradition in order to venerate your ancestors. And when I say venerating your ancestors, I mean uplifting them. I recently saw something where ancestors in different traditions, including different initiatory traditions, are seen and talked about in different ways. For me, how I have learned my ancestor work and my ancestor tradition is from Mary Beth Bonfiglio, who is doing a Blood and Belonging course, which is an ancestral remembrance course that I will be in. Lisa Fazio, who is doing Della Medicina that I'm in right now. We actually just started working with rosemary. We're learning from the plants and books. And then from there, just kind of being very spirit-led, very ancestrally led in my practice. And I get a lot of questions, I think, a lot of the time about what that looks like. I recently held a workshop. I'm doing this now, okay? I was like, I don't know when I'm gonna do it during the video, but we're gonna do it 30 minutes in. Okay, so I recently did a workshop called Ancestral Magic. There's part 1, Reconnection and Learning from the Folk, that is available as a video to purchase from Seagrave Apothecary that I'll link down below. And I have the upcoming part 2, Accountability and Learning from the Folk, that is coming for doing in November. And I have a book coming out in the same name that's coming August 2025. And it is what this workshop was based off of. It only felt appropriate to announce ancestral magic by through this video because last year it's been years in the making. I think I submitted the full manuscript last August, and we've spent a year editing it, and then it's another year before it comes published. So, and then I spent a year writing it, so it's almost 3 years. This book has been in the making for 3 years, and it only felt appropriate to announce in my Giorno dei Morti, my All Souls Day video, because this is the time of year where I call my ancestors home. I call them in, I ask them for their help, I do things in devotion to them, and this book, Ancestral Magic, is something that I did fully in devotion to my ancestors. I fully did it. I wrote it and they were with me the entire time. And you can pre-order it right now, which is insane. I am terrified in a good way. If you have read my first book, Spells for Change, I think a lot of people, it was definitely a book that I wrote very early on in my internet career. And I still love that book. It's my first child. I'm proud of it. It is my first book, and I think that I am proud of what it is and what it gives to people, and that it's still utilized as a beginner witchcraft resource. But at the same time, this book is so much closer to the content that I have been making for the past like 4 years. It is the book that like I cried over, and I bled over, and I mourned over, and I wailed over. And it is the book where if you have questions on reconnection that you have asked me, you have questions on saints that you have asked me, you have questions on plants that you have asked me, anything along those lines, it's in this book. I took all of these questions and all of these things and this journey that I've been on, and I put it in a book. And it is that it's me sharing my journey with you and how I reconnected and how I'm still reconnecting in an attempt to help other people do that same path and reconnect to not only their ancestors, but their folk traditions and their culture, and push people down that road if that's what they're interested in. And I am very proud of it. In my second child. It is gonna be available in the US. This is the US cover, and this is the UK cover. And it's coming out at the same time, August 2025, under Andrew McMeel and O'Brien Spring. I have the US links. I don't know if I have the UK links. I'll update this bio with when I get the UK links. So Giorno dei Morti is a very dear holiday in my heart, and it only felt right as we talk about ancestors and ancestor veneration and welcoming ancestors in to Giorno dei Morti that we talk about this. So I'll give a little bit of information on some traditions that I know of for All Souls Day, and then I'll give you like 10 things you can do to celebrate. I actually have some old content from last year that I'm going to be using because I researched for like 2 days and gathered a bunch of superstitions and traditions from different regions in Italy. I will also link those videos down below. I only did it on Instagram because it was like, I didn't feel like I knew enough about it to make a full video. And we had issues with confidence back then. We still do. Ogni Santi is All Saints Day, but I'm not sure if that's actually the proper. It was Ogni di Giorno. So Ogni Santi is November 1st. Today, All Saints Day and Giorno di Morto is November 2nd. They're found in Italy and Italian American culture. I know a lot of Italian Americans who celebrate it. Different regions will celebrate them differently. So examples of some regional differences and regional holidays. Lombardy and Friuli Venezia Giulia leave water and bread out on October 31st to guide the dead home. And Abruzzo and Veneto regions prepare legumes. So something to note about the difference between Italian American and Italian culture is Italians will probably know who they are based off region. Italian Americans, we kind of all syncretized a lot of different regional differences together to kind of make a conglomerate culture. These were all in enclaves together. Many regions prepare different types of sweets. Pan de Morti and Osse di Morti. I made Osse di Morti last year. Picture, they look like little bone cookies, almond cookies. Benji ate 20 of them, and I remade them all that night. Literally went to dance, left the cookies cooking. My partner didn't realize how many were there. And I guess he went out to do something and I went out to do something, and he came back and he didn't realize that he had eaten them. He was fine. He's still alive. I double checked. He probably shouldn't have eaten that many, but he just like pooped liquid for a while. It was fine. Days are started with prayer, time spent in cemeteries, food is given at the tombs, candle lit on gravestones or in churches for lost loved ones. So you can kind of see the syncretism with Christianity here. Spending time praying for the dead, spending time in churches. I did find some like actual evidence of like certain regions would go to the gravestones and eat on the gravestones, burn candles on the gravestones, which is kind of like, it depends on where you are, but that's a great way to celebrate. It's a day to honor and visit your mighty dead, bring food and light to them, or you can also set an extra place at the table for them to join you. So starting off with a list of 10 things you can do to celebrate this holiday. You can also celebrate this on Samhain and kind of do that ancestor magic then as well, but it's really up to you. Giorno dei, I will be doing it on Giorno dei Morti, but you can also do it on Samhain if that's kind of more what you want and feel. I always felt like October 31st to November 2nd is like prime time for doing ancestor things for whatever reason. The veil is thin. I've seen a lot of posts recently like the veil is not thin, and I'm like, it is, but it's thin multiple times a year. So creating an ancestor altar. I really go ham with my ancestor. altars. I like to do flowers and pictures and rosaries and things that I really enjoy and I feel like my ancestors will enjoy. Last year I offered them a bowl of fava beans because fava beans and chickpeas are both relevant to this holiday and kind of utilized a lot in dishes. And I also offered them the Morti Bones of the Dead cookies. I made them the day before and gave them the next day. I spent a lot of time setting up that altar. I kind of cleared a space in my central living area on my bookshelf. I laid down like a rabbit pelt. I cleaned everything. I gave them roses. It was a very big deal, and that ancestor altar for me is still standing to this day. I absolutely adored kind of taking this time to light a candle the night before the second, to make cookies, to kind of spend at home making very hearty foods and offering it to them. And for me, a lot of that was like something I kind of already was doing, but at the same time I felt like those days they were more likely to like show up for me. They show up for me all the time, but like they feel closer during that period. I also don't live near my ancestors' graves, so another aspect that is you as well is to making an ancestor altar is visiting your local dead. Our dead and our mighty dead refers to dead of our lineage, local dead, local spirits, local cemeteries. Those are places that you can go and visit as well and just clean off gravestones, see if there are any graves that look a bit untended. My first All Souls Day that I really didn't do in like a big way, I didn't post about it, I just celebrated it. It was 2 years ago, or 3-4 years ago now. I went to my local cemetery with my mom and we went and like cleaned off gravestones. I journaled and sat in the cemetery for a while. Any sort of cemetery spirits or local dead that you have relationships with right now is a really great time to go and visit them. So I don't know about you, but I'm gonna try to, in the coming weeks, maybe not exactly on Giorno dei Morti, but I'm gonna try to drive up to a cemetery that's about an hour, 2 hours away from me that has a lot of Italian Americans in it that I kind of like bonded with the last time I was there. So yeah, honoring this kind of period is not just about our ancestors that are lineage or blood, but our community ancestors and our plant ancestors and our animal ancestors and our local dead that we have relationships with. Another thing you can do is if you are close to your ancestors' graves or your family gravestones, you can go visit them. You can bring them food that they would like. You can dress up in your best. Make sure you're dressed like really nice. That's something that I always do is I'm like, I'm gonna dress up and go and visit them. Bring them a drink that they like. Bring them some food. Just sit and talk with them. I think in Italy, from a blog post I read, so I'm not sure if this is all over Italy, but kissing a headstone, kissing a grave is a common thing to do. Bring balloons or flowers, bring food to the cemetery. So this depends on the cemetery rules and all those things as well. Making traditional foods is to Giorno dei Morti and offering it to them is another thing. This could be something like if you're Italian American, making a chickpea and fava bean soup, making something with chickpeas in it, making osso dei morti or pan dei morti, those kind of sweets, and offering them to your ancestors and enjoying them yourself. Or it can be something where it's a traditional food from your culture. So you have something along the lines of like, whatever feels relevant for you. You can make that and offer it to them. It really is like ancestor veneration and honoring your ancestors is gonna look different for everyone because everyone has different experiences with their ancestors and their dead. You can also spend time doing something in devotion to or in dedication with your ancestors. So for me, I'm going to be attempting to speak in Italian all day. To them, to myself, like I'm gonna spend all day speaking Italian. I'm gonna be cleaning their altar, which is a separate thing you can do as well. That is also a devotion. Devotion is interesting because a lot of things can be considered devotion. Just making that ancestor altar is part of this devotional process. You can get a little further with it in like doing something that feels relevant like doing a craft or a hobby that they may have done. So sewing, embroidering, something along those lines. Cooking is a part of devotion. Devotion is something that I think we often are like, well, I have to go out of my way to do it. I don't think we ever do. Devotion is something that we do every day. When we wake up in the morning, we say, I am wearing a head covering today. I am wearing enchanted jewelry today. I am wearing my traditional amulets today. That is devotion to your ancestors. And when you do it every day, it's dedication as well. So you can also, around 6, light a candle the night before to guide your dead home. And that I think is like bringing light to your ancestors during this time period. You can also, 7, you can cook a really fancy dinner. I know we already talked a bit about cooking, but like set an extra place for them at the table. I did this not last year, but the year before. I set up a plate for them and I cooked like chicken parmesan and I lit a bunch of candles and I just kind of sat and ate with them and I talked to them. 8, talking to them is another thing you can do. I feel like I have started integrating this into my daily life a little bit more, but really sit down with them, like pull up a chair next to your ancestral altar after cleaning it, after setting it up, after giving offerings. I'll go over offerings at the end for ancestors. After giving offerings, and kind of sit there and just tell them what you've been up to for the last year. Say, hey, I've missed you guys. I know you're a bit closer right now. I know you're here all the time, but here's what I've been doing. Here's what I'm proud of. Here's what I need your help with as we move forward. Here are some offerings for you and some things you like. I personally always go out of my way during these days to buy like a specific type of liquor that my papa liked and my nana liked. And I make their drinks. And then for the rest of the ancestors who I don't know their drinks, I offer wine or amaro or coffee depending on the time of day. And there are like multiple offerings throughout the day as well. Sitting and talking to your ancestors, just saying, hey, what's up? This is where I've been. What have you been up to? That's a great way of communicating with them and communing with them and sitting with them on Giorno dei Morti. Another way, and I think some appropriate offerings to kind of give during this period or during any period for your ancestors are drinks they like, foods they liked. I give fresh flowers. I give rosaries that I associate with them. For this Giorno dei Morti, I will be replacing a frame that one of the pictures of my ancestors is in because she has been complaining about it for a really long time. So, probably gonna do that today. Go to Goodwill and just like find a frame. Other offerings include water, a white candle. I talk a lot about my elaborate ancestor altar, but your ancestor altar doesn't have to be elaborate. It can literally be a candle that says, to all my ancestors known and unknown, or with specific names that you know of. Light it, give a glass of water, give some fresh flowers, and you're set. For me, I have a lot of protective charms, a lot of plates. I get really fancy with it because I love kind of more elaborate altars. And for me, that is something that I just feel is appropriate. So during this holiday too, another thing you can do, another thing I recommend is cleaning your house before. Clean the day before. I know this is more of an Italian-American thing, but I'm like, I have company coming over. I gotta clean the house. And the company is my family, which means I gotta deep clean. All the weird little spots that I've been ignoring for the past year, they're getting cleaned. So clean the house beforehand. It doesn't have to be super deep clean and elaborate. Cleaning the altar and just the space around the altar should be enough. But for me, I am so like, I gotta clean the house. I haven't cleaned in a very long time because I have been sick. So we're deep cleaning. And that's another thing kind of to prepare and to get ready for it. Lighting a candle the night before, cleaning the home, gathering offerings. Kind of, for me, I really like to plan out what I'm going to do. And that's particularly because that day, if I don't have a plan of like when I'm gonna wake up, when I'm gonna make the cookies, all this, I just kind of fall into the space of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Am I supposed to be doing something today? So, yeah, and especially since I have a market the next day, Deva House down at Savoy Theater in Denver on November 3rd. come see me. I am going to definitely be planning this out quite a bit more because I have something the next day and I'm going to be also working on things. And it's going to be an exciting day. And just remember that honoring your ancestors and venerating your ancestors is not something that is for a particular people or a particular tradition. The ways we do it will differ depending on that tradition and culture, but keep in mind too that you don't need to do it around this time of year to honor your ancestors. You can make an ancestor altar anytime, you can call them in anytime, and you can see what they want anytime. Another question that I get a lot is if I don't have ancestors that want an altar or not okay with it, what do I do? You don't have to make an altar. You can do things in devotion to them. You can call them in. You can cook with them. You don't necessarily have to make an altar. For me, that's what I like to do on Giorno di Morti, or I just do like altar upkeep. I'm going to be deep cleaning that bookshelf. Carolina is like so pleased right now. I can feel it. She's like, fuck yeah, you are, because I've been putting it off for way too long. I'm gonna dust the blinds too, make her real happy. But I am going to, and you don't have to make an altar. Here's the thing that I kind of touched on at the beginning and mentioned again recently. Ancestor veneration looks different depending on who you are, the culture you come from, the teachers you learn from, the tradition you're in. It's not supposed to look one way, and especially because everyone has different ancestors, there are going to be some who want things differently than others. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that it's not valid. But yeah, that is my Giorno di Morti video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you take some time to honor your ancestors today and tomorrow and maybe pick up some flowers for them. But yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day.